Hello? Hello? Can everybody hear me? Can everybody see me? Yeah? Good. Because make no mistake, my freaky darlings, I am Bambi Ramblebabble. So...
Careful what you do, 'cause God is watching your every move.
What up, people? I promised my interns a week off between videos, but then I found out Nando V Movies was doing a new collab playlist, One Villainous Scene, and that anyone could join the fun, including me. So I rushed into my interns', quarters, and was like, we need to do this thing. They protested at first, but empathetic creature I am. I explained that they could either spend their week off working on a video about Light Yagami, aka Kira from Death Note, or they could spend it in my very own boo box.
The boo box.
Mitchell preferred the boo box at first, but after a couple hours, he couldn't deny how much more fun this would be. It goes without saying, spoilers ahead. Ah, Light. Charming, good-looking, genius-level intellect. Passionate, committed, convicted, cool and logical even when under serious pressure, moves his family, allies, enemies, and even gods of death like pawns on a chessboard. Which is to say, he's such a Chad. A brainy Chad. A dark triad brainy Chad. A dark triad brainy Chad with a god complex. Yeah, I honestly do weep for Misa and Takeda. And Mikami.
God.
Light's goal throughout the series is to become God of the New World, by using the Death Note to wipe out all criminals and lazy people, and eliminating those who stand in his way, most notably fellow genius arch-nemesis L and L's two successors, Nier and Mello, who both Light and many fans consider to be unworthy successors, but not me, which is why my one villainous scene is the confrontation between Light and Nier at the Yellow Box Warehouse. Interns, hit it! Throughout the series, Death Note raises some very good questions about the nature of justice, by the way of asking who is morally correct, Light and his proxies or L and those opposing them. And it's not like Light is selling meth or something like that. He's ridding the world of evildoers to make the world better, and it's left for most of the series for the audience to decide who is justice. The text never tells the audience who the actual villain is. Are you Team Kira, or are you Team L? Both are acceptable answers. Everything is gray, until it's not. Until the text actually takes a side. Put a pin in that grenade, though. By the end of the series, Light may still talk of his impending godhood as a goal, but it's clear that he already views himself as having achieved this status. He is special. He is the Messiah. And while you might be on Team L, the text presents Light the way fiction tends to present its heroes and villains, with grandeur. That grandeur reinforces that he is a god or devil. The work is filled with religious imagery and symbolism, particularly of a Judeo-Christian brand, which is important because, may I be totally transparent with you, when Light is talking about godhood, he ain't talking about a lil d deity like a Greek god, a god with weaknesses, failings, and flaws. Oh no, he is talking about the big D, a monotheistic, all-powerful, omnibenevolent God. In Light's mind, and the minds of others, the battle between L and Kira is a mythical struggle, grandeur personified. And in betraying the struggle, the Death Note anime uses this interesting technique that I have yet to see someone talk about. A technique that makes the struggle so grandiose, it becomes glamdiose. I like portmanteaus. If I'd never seen Death Note and someone pitched it to me as a PAVI, a passive audio-visual interaction series, I like acronyms, I'd tell them, hey, sounds really cool, but it should be prose because, sorry, that's not gonna work in AV. The most visually interesting element is the Shinigami, and they're mostly spectators. Even the way most people die is one of the most visually monotonous ways a person can obtain the orchard. Sure, the story is certain to make you chew your fingertips bloody with suspense, but at the end of the day, visually it's mostly people doing research, thinking, talking, and writing down names. I would be wrong, because the manga makes it work anyway. But the anime did something to make it even cooler. It takes these boring and mundane visuals and makes them... Listen, everyone laughs at this.
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
I don't. It's not ridiculous. It's pucking balls to the wall Wagnerian epic. What the creatives working on the anime did was they applied a kind of non-literal, hyper-real representation, similar to the singing in musicals. The potato chip scene is not totally literal. These two are not staring each other down from skyscrapers. Light isn't tripping when he writes in the Death Note. He isn't seeing vapor trails off his pencil. These are elements meant to tell us how to feel and how the characters are feeling. And it makes what Light is doing awesome, in the original meaning of the word. For or against him, Kira is great and terrible. The text tells us Light is not a simple serial killer or a vigilante. He's more than a man. His struggle with L is more than cops and robbers. So, what is the text saying when at the end that enhancement mostly disappears and what little remains serves not to heighten Light, but to mock him? One thing that bothered me throughout Death Note when I was first experiencing it was how clean and ordered everything always was. Like 95% of the world had bi-hourly maid turnover. But that cleanliness, that order, comes to an abrupt dead end at the Yellow Box warehouse where Kira's apocalypse occurs. Teacher, tell these freaky darlings about the word apocalypse.
Most people find the word apocalypse to be a terrifying concept. Checked in the dictionary, it means only revelation.
Thank you, teacher. The Yellow Box warehouse is not only the end of Death Note, the end of Kira, it's also where Light is revealed, not just to the characters, but to the audience. Following Nier putting Light in checkmate, the series' grandeur and moral grayness evaporates, and the text finally takes a side as the truth is revealed. And boy, is the truth ugly. Just like this venue, so unlike any other setting in the rest of the series, so unlike where Light defeated L. His victory over L takes place in a technologically advanced skyscraper high above the city. But Light's defeat comes here, this dilapidated industrial charnel house. It's old, dark, and dirty. The literalization of the rotten world Light references, but we've never really seen. There's the constant creaking turn of a rusted fan that looks like it's specked with blood. Outside it's pouring rain and the roof leaks, making a huge puddle on the floor. And a single rat scrambles and screeches around, running, hiding, trying to escape. This doesn't seem like the place where a god or a complicated hero rises or falls. It's so ugly and ordinary. It's almost like this is the place where you catch a cold. Or...
God of the New World.
Oh, you're just a murderer, Light Yagami. And this notebook is the deadliest weapon of mass murder in the history of mankind. You yielded to the power of the Shinigami in the notebook, and you have confused yourself with a god. In the end, you're nothing more than a crazy serial killer. That's all you are. Nothing more and nothing less.
Nier is basically saying, you're not special, the notebook is. And while Nier says Light is nothing more and nothing less, what he and the text actually mean is Light is freaking low. He's not a god, a messiah, a hero, complicated or otherwise, a leader, the architect of a better world. He's a sociopathic serial killer, and nothing more. Following Light's reveal, the rain stops. The sun has come out, pouring in through the window, illuminating Light's true nature. The grandeur is gone, now only presented with Nier's toys to mock Light, further driving the point. Contrasting the previous conflicts where the text maintained a judgmental ambivalence, this setting and the loss of the hyper-real representation is the means by which the text tells us Nier is correct. But nothing affirms that more than Light's own behavior as he moves rather seamlessly through 4 out of the 5 stages of grief. Light's first defense is to deny it.
This whole thing is a setup! This is all part of Nier's plan to frame me! Isn't it a little odd that no one died after having their name written in the notebook? This proves it's a trap!
Light's genius, intellect, and charm have disappeared. It seems so strangely childish. Light moves quickly into being dominated by rage. When he finds out his most worthy and loyal servant, Mikami, is to blame, he curses him for his mistake. During the final few episodes, Light's look changed. It looked like he'd started going to the gym on the reg. This look, coupled with the loss of intelligence, His childish denial and lashing out at the people who were not only his accomplices, but his dedicated followers, makes me think of my own strange sense of disappointment in many real-world dictators, both historical and present. When I first learn of their crimes, they tend to stand out in my mind as Lex Luthor-like supervillains, but the more I learn about them, I eventually come to an either fortunate or awful conclusion. That in spite of everything, they're just thugs. Bullies who use violence and manipulation to get off or to get their way. They're nothing special. They're not complicated. They're just thugs who manage to get way more power than anyone should ever have. And that's what Light looks like. He doesn't even get the Hannibal Lecter or Joker lens of cool. He's just a cornered, narcissistic thug resorting to the same tactics they all use when their power has been taken away. At this point, Light owns up, but it's a means of reclaiming his delusions of grandeur, to reproduce the moral complexity of the series, remarking on how the world has improved from his actions. But the text is turned on him, and this is where Nier knocks him off his high horse. Instead of debating and maintaining his dignity, his honor, showing that he actually believes and cares about helping people, his claimed convictions, now that he isn't in a position of strength, he makes an obvious impulse move and is stopped, shot, by Matsuda. Thus a man who considered himself God is brought to his knees and lower by the member of the Kira task force who was consistently treated as being the least intelligent, i.e. the weakest. Helpless and wounded, he pleads for help from the people he's used, specifically for the women whose affection he took advantage of.
Where are you, Misa? Where's Takara? Someone. What do I do now?
Mikami, his right hand, kills himself not only in despair over his failure, or for his god forsaking him, but also because, at the end, Light's true nature becomes apparent to him. It is in this moment it becomes clear that all of Light's talk of justice and helping people were pretenses, excuses to indulge in his own dark nature. He's not truly that complicated. And it was here that I really thought about how throughout the story, that he's only paid lip service to fixing a broken world, while his focus has been on dominating his enemies and becoming God, ruling. And in the end, his only thoughts were about saving himself. He has never once shown any remorse or questioned his actions. These are the thoughts and feelings of the Dark Triad personality type and an authoritarian. Without subtlety, this is who Light truly is. And it's who he's been the entire time. All the Death Note did was provide him a means. Hello, my freaky darlings. Older, wiser, and even more radiant Bambi here to add some clarification to what younger, foolish, ugly duckling Bambi said. What that Bambi meant when saying this is who Light always has been, we were speaking of Light's deeper psychological mechanisms. Basically, it comes down to four things: power, anonymity, both of which the Death Note granted him, self-perception, and levels of moral reasoning. We also misspoke when we said that he has never questioned his actions.
I killed them both. I killed two men. Those were human lives. It won't be overlooked. Besides, who am I to pass judgment on others?
Okay, so Freud said, if you're about to bring up the Oedipal thing, don't. Because Freud said a lot of stuff, some more useful and applicable to people other than himself. Freud said we have 3 levels of moral reasoning. First is, I need, I want, in spite of the consequence to myself or others. Second is basically, what will others think? Third is of the higher moral consideration, such as empathy. Now, Light starts off at the second, seemingly makes the jump to the third before realizing the full power of the Death Note gives him. And more importantly, the anonymity. It is here that he decides to indulge. Now, one could make a reasonable argument that he is actually acting on the third level, with the killing spree as a higher moral consideration, empathy for the victims of crimes. But I submit to you that Light has a serious freaking ego. Hot take, I know. And that his self-perception requires that he be good. In his mind, he must be the law enforcement or justice, not a criminal. Thus he creates a framework through which he can indulge in the power the Death Note grants him. The lip service to fixing the rotten world is him maintaining this framework. Without the power and anonymity, this darkness lies buried deep inside Light. He pretends to everyone to have higher moral standards, including to himself. Some might make the argument that we all are doing this to a certain extent, but that's another topic. My argument is not that Light is deep down a serial killer. More that it is evident that Light should never be granted any sort of power, such as, being in the police. The story of Death Note proves that under the right circumstances, he is particularly vulnerable to some of the worst kinds of corruption. The worst version of Light is among the worst kinds of humans imaginable. I now return you to younger, ugly duckling, Bambi. For this video, I could have chosen many scenes to focus on how awesome or sympathetic Light is, but I decided I wanted to talk about the utter brutal deconstruction and dismantling of a villain. Not simply where they are killed or defeated, but where the audience's perception of them as awesome or deserving of sympathy is annihilated. It's fascinating because after a series of being mythologized, during the apocalypse, the text turns and demythologizes him, almost biting the audience, saying simply, "Many of you have fallen for the glib charm of a sociopath. He was always the villain, cruel and cowardly." This one villainous scene is brilliant, because it is the reveal of a plain and evil villain now removed from his disguise, even for us. To that end, I am now going to say a few words about a real hero. Jesus. Jesus, when dying, reaches the stage of acceptance, willing to sacrifice himself for others, and what he believes in. This is the mark of a true Messiah. The possibility of sacrificing himself so others might carry on his work to fix the world has never been in Light's wheelhouse. Jesus' final words show he is thinking of others. "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." Light does not reach acceptance. His facade gone, he dies running for his life and begging,
like a dog.
Now perhaps you disagree with my interpretation of Light's character, and that's fine, that's fine. There's always wiggle room for other ideas. But in a series so infused with Christian iconography, in a media landscape where every dying hero, no matter how complicated or controversial, seems contractually obligated to assume the cruciform pose, I do think it is telling that Kira dies with his arms at his sides. Now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna do some begging of my own. Hi, I'm new to YouTube, and would much appreciate it if you would comment, like, subscribe, share, and hit the ring-a-ding thing so the aftermarket plasticine extraterrestrials will alert you to whatever else I put out. Everyone has their own way of doing that. This is mine. My way of begging you. It's what everyone on YouTube is actually doing. I'm just honest about my begging. This is me begging. Does it make you feel good to see me brought so low? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you all again very soon. Until then, my freaky darlings, eins, zwei, drei, and goodbye.